didn't start with a shootout, or a sting, or a knock at the door. It started in silence, in a quiet living room in Warrington. Thomas Maher, a name few knew, a man even fewer noticed, a haulage boss with a clean public image, and a very different private operation. From the outside, he was just another businessman, but behind encrypted screens and untraceable phone handles, Maher was building something vast, something lucrative, something criminal. Drugs, money, connections stretching across borders, Ireland, the Netherlands, Spain, even Asia, and all of it coordinated without ever leaving his house. While the world was locked down, Maher's network was wide open, moving kilos, laundering cash, and running a logistics game so tight, even the professionals called him the best. He thought the system protected him. He thought no one could see. But he was wrong. Because while he moved in silence, the walls were already listening. This is the story of a man who turned transport into trafficking, who moved cocaine across countries like it was cargo, and how a single breach in a secret phone network exposed it all. Thomas Maher wasn't flashy. He didn't throw money around in public, didn't pose for photos with gold chains or stacks of cash. But make no mistake, behind that modest front door in Warrington was a man trusted by some of Europe's most dangerous criminals. They called him the logistics man. The one who didn't just move the product, he made the route work. With decades of haulage experience, Maher knew every port, border, and checkpoint from Dublin to Rotterdam. His trucks looked legitimate, moving fruit, wine, or commercial goods. But beneath the cover cargo, kilos upon kilos of Class A drugs, cocaine, heroin, ecstasy, hidden in compartments built to vanish on command. His clients weren't local dealers. These were top-tier cartels. Maher's network stretched across Ireland, the UK, the Netherlands, Spain, Turkey, Bulgaria, even Asia. And each job ran like a military operation. Drivers didn't need names, just a banknote. A pre-agreed euro note, its serial number shared in advance, was all it took to verify an identity at drop-off. Shipments were photographed as proof. No questions, no delays. And all of it, every route and payment, was tracked from that same room. No direct contact, no fingerprints. Just encrypted coordination and blind trust. Maher took his cut, a quiet 1% on each deal, and kept his hands far from the product. He was earning thousands a week, always under the radar, always one step removed. To most, he was just a haulier with a knack for business. But to the cartels, he was the engine that made the whole machine run. And the most dangerous part? He believed he was invisible. While most of the world was locked indoors, Thomas Maher was busier than ever. No meetings, no ports, no warehouses. Just a man in a modest house in Warrington, running an international drug trafficking network from his sofa. He operated through EncroChat handles like Satirical and Snacker, and under those handles, he became a digital trafficker, moving drugs and money. His messages didn't hide what he was doing. They laid it out step by step. Times, places, passwords, payments. Everything was written clearly, like a checklist. To Maher, this was routine. Multiple supply lines, all live, even during pandemic shutdowns. He knew lockdown was slowing others down, but not him. Maher thought the technology made him invisible, untouchable. But what he didn't know was that someone else was already watching. And they weren't just reading his messages. They were building a case. For years, EncroChat was the go-to tool for Europe's criminal elite. It wasn't just encrypted, it was marketed as untraceable, invisible, untouchable. But behind the scenes, law enforcement had already cracked the code. French and Dutch investigators quietly hacked the network, not just shutting it down, cloning it. For months, they sat silently inside the system, watching messages in real time. Millions of them. Every plan, every deal, every name. Mayer had no idea. He kept talking, kept organizing, where to drop the drugs, which routes were still open during lockdown, how much cash to move, and when. He spoke openly, no code, no caution. He believed EncroChat couldn't be read. Then, on June 13th, 2020, the silence broke. EncroChat sent a sudden, ominous message to every user. The system had been compromised. Power off your device. Dispose of it immediately. By then, it was already too late. That same day, Thomas Maher was arrested at his home in Warrington. The encrypted devices linked to his accounts were never recovered, but they didn't need to be. Every message had already been captured, decrypted, and logged. EncroChat didn't just bring down a communications platform, it brought down the man who believed he was untouchable. On paper, Thomas Maher didn't look like a millionaire. He reported less than minimum wage for tax. But the reality, a different story altogether. Outside his modest home in Warrington, Cheshire police spotted something strange. Parked casually on the driveway, a Range Rover, a Porsche Cayenne, a Mercedes GLS, and a Corvette worth over £70,000. Inside the house, designer watches, Rolex, Hublot, artwork from Dubai, luxury furniture, receipts from 5-star holidays to Dubai, Mexico, and New York. To neighbours, he was just the guy always flashing £50 notes down the pub. But to the National Crime Agency, he was living a lie. As the investigation deepened, the financial picture became impossible to ignore. Over the span of just a few years, Maher and his wife had spent hundreds of thousands on jewellery, cars, holidays, and high-end art, while officially earning next to nothing. There was even a map of the world made from bullets hanging in his home, a symbol of his reach, or maybe his ego. The NCA didn't just see luxury, they saw laundering. Every watch, every trip, every gift was potential evidence. And when it came time to raid his property, they didn't just take photos, they took it all. Cars, cash, artwork. Maher's life of quiet extravagance had started raising eyebrows long before the messages ever leaked. Thomas Maher was already known to police, long before a single EncroChat message came to light. In October 2019, 39 Vietnamese migrants were found dead in the back of a refrigerated lorry in Essex, a tragedy that shook the nation. The trailer had once belonged to Maher, and though he claimed to have sold it, it was still registered in his wife's name. Maher was arrested but never charged. Still, the connection placed him firmly on the radar of investigators. In 2020, Maher was also investigated for conspiracy to cause grievous bodily harm to Ronan Hughes, a man later convicted of the manslaughter of the same 39 migrants. The charge never went to trial, but for the NCA, it painted a broader picture. Gardaí in Ireland described him as the logistics manager for all the country's major drug gangs. He wasn't loyal to any one group. He worked with all of them. Whoever needed a route, Maher made it happen. The headlines said drugs and money, but behind the scenes, the shadows went much deeper. Thomas Maher didn't work alone. One of his key associates, and proof of just how far his reach extended, was Paul O'Brien, a seasoned criminal from Uxbridge, West London. A man with his own network, his own cash flow, and his own encrypted device. O'Brien operated under the handle 1DiamondG, and in early 2020, that username became very familiar to investigators tracking Maher's EncroChat messages. In April 2020, they set up a carefully planned exchange. A lorry and a car met near Uddel in the Netherlands, where a load of cocaine was handed over, drugs that could have been worth up to £1 million on the UK streets. But Maher wasn't just coordinating the drugs, he handled the money too. He arranged for €300,000, belonging to O'Brien, to be picked up near Louth, in Ireland, and couriered back to the Netherlands. Then, just weeks later, he organised a second run, this time €600,000, collected from Drogheda, also destined for the Netherlands. But Garda surveillance was already closing in. Officers swooped on the handoff, arresting 3 couriers and seizing the cash. It was a clean hit, one that tied both O'Brien and Maher to a tightly run laundering route. By the time the EncroChat network collapsed, the evidence was overwhelming. O'Brien pleaded guilty to 3 counts of conspiracy and was sentenced to 21 years in prison. For the NCA, the partnership told them everything they needed to know. The courtroom was quiet, but heavy. Thomas Maher stood in the dock at Liverpool Crown Court, facing down a wall of evidence, not from informants or wiretaps, but from his own fingers. Thousands of encrypted messages, deals in black and white, routes, cash, contacts, all laid out in perfect detail. Prosecutor Catherine Rabaiotti read out the charges: 4 counts of conspiracy to commit crime abroad, 2 for importing cocaine, 2 for laundering money. The court heard how Maher arranged multiple shipments from the Netherlands to Ireland, while simultaneously organising the transport of hundreds of thousands of euros in the opposite direction. The evidence even detailed one exchange with Paul O'Brien, organising a cash run from Louth to the Netherlands, and another from Drogheda, intercepted by Garda with 600,000 euros seized. In the courtroom, there were no dramatic outbursts, no denials. Maher didn't contest the conspiracy charges. He entered guilty pleas. The sentence was swift: 14 years and 8 months behind bars. But prison wasn't the only punishment. In May 2023, a judge granted a confiscation order under the Proceeds of Crime Act. The total? £629,000. His house, his cars, his Rolexes, his gold is from Dubai, all of it, gone. If he doesn't repay it within 6 months, he'll serve another 6 years behind bars. And when the gates open, he still won't be free. Maher is now subject to a serious crime prevention order, a legal leash that restricts every part of his life. Now tell us in the comments, should criminals who operate behind the scenes face even harsher sentences than those on the street? We read every word, because sometimes the conversation after the case is just as revealing. For years, he ran a criminal empire from the comfort of his home. Now, even that comfort is gone. If this case gripped you, hit the like button. It tells us these stories matter. Subscribe UK Crime Documentaries for more real UK crime stories, the ones that don't make it into the headlines, but shape everything beneath them.